We'll call the meeting to order. Alvin, if you'd call the roll, please.
Yes, Christopher Collins.
Here.
Commissioner Martinez is absent. Commissioner Alminas.
Here.
Commissioner Miller is absent. Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Ryan is absent. Commissioner Bongiorni.
Here.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so items 1 and 2 have been continued at the request of the applicant, which brings us to item 3, which is a petition for notice of intent for Greenleaf Park redevelopment project, formerly known property known as 1187 Parker Street. Who is here to?
Anya Duffy with GZA and Jackie Claver with GZA.
Okay. Who wants to start, Anya or Jackie?
Sure, I can start. I can give you an overview of the overall site improvements. My name's Anya Duffy. I'm with GZA, as I just said. I'm working for the city of Springfield as a landscape architect on the design for improvements at Greenleaf Park. And with me is Jackie Claver. She is a certified ecologist, and she has flagged the wetlands for us and prepared the NOI. If I could share my screen. You see my image here?
Yes.
Here's a plan of the overall park. I'm just going to switch to Mass Mapper so you're orientated. If you don't know what Greenleaf is, this is Parker and Wilbraham Road. The 16 acres library and community center are here. There's a large parking lot just off of Parker Street that serves these 2 buildings, as well as a basketball court and tennis courts. There's also parking area off of Vincent Street. And our park improvements involve basically trying to tie the 2 halves of this park together. Currently, they do read as 2 halves. You have this wooded area in between, and you don't, when you're in this western side of the park, you don't know what kind of lies behind this treed buffer. You wouldn't know there's a soccer field there or baseball fields. The new improvements involve a splash pad and playgrounds up here, northern playground and a southern playground, as well as pedestrian connections throughout the park so that the park kind of reads as one cohesive park and offers more recreational opportunities for the city. It also features many places to kind of rest and have a little bit of a respite, as in like seating kind of nooks around the existing features. So the park has gone through lots of different improvements over the year, and this is one that kind of has the largest amount of funding. So we're really trying to make a big impact and improve this park so that it, offers more recreational opportunity for the city. Why we're here today is because a couple of the improvements are within the buffer zones to our resource areas. And the first that I'll talk about is this pedestrian bridge that is spanning over an isolated land subject to flooding. It's a small isolated wetland between the parking and the existing athletic soccer field. Kind of, the grade dips down, it's wet there. We'd like to, instead of filling it with earth, span it with a timber bridge, and it's 8 feet wide, 25 feet long, and it would span right over the wetland and avoid impacting the bank. So our work ends before the bank to the wetland that we flagged. So we'd be bringing a little bit of fill in for the abutments, forming and pouring a concrete footing that the prefabricated timber bridge then sits on. And everything can flow as it always has. So that's one area that we're looking to make improvements. And that's really to allow for kind of a visual connection from this parking area into the rest of the park and an accessible ADA connection. So when you're parked here, you can accessibly get to the new improved park elements, and per the federal and state grant funding that's required. The second area that we're looking to improve is actually a failed utility. It's down in the southern portion of the park. There's a existing paved driveway almost. It's a pedestrian route between, and I'll just quickly flash between. This route is down here. It connects the activities up here down to the school. I think it's probably often used by students and park visitors. But in this area, there is a head wall where a 42-inch pipe, a 54-inch pipe, and a 12-inch pipe all outlet. And that head wall has separated from the pipe and moved forward. There's this area receives quite a bit of over surface, like stormwater from this kind of mini watershed, and it has channelized down this bank, causing erosion and exacerbating the head wall issue. There's a tree and its roots that are in conflict with the head wall. So it's an overall mess. It's a hazard. It's not going to last much longer. One more storm and it's going to float away. So as we're making improvements in this area, we're repaving this walkway to be accessible. We want to address this area and fix it up. We did have DPW out there and Springfield Water and Sewer. They know it's an issue. They just don't have the funding to pay for it themselves. So the Parks Department is going to loop this into their overall project. It could have probably been done as an emergency repair, but we're hoping to loop it in with this as an improvement. So right now the bank there, or the slope going down, is vegetated with some trees. There's a lot of bittersweet in the area. There's really no good access to get to here and maintain it. So as we come in and do this work, this whole kind of patch of vegetation is just lots of invasives, and you almost don't even see that this head wall is there. In order to do this work, you'd have to access it, and this would all get regraded so that the water isn't channelizing to one set point behind the wall, but flowing in a way so that you don't have further erosion. And then that would be restored with a lawn so that you can mow it, you can inspect the head wall, you can get to it. And you would have this is really small, but this is an elevation view looking at the head wall, and this is the channel here, but you would have a fence on top of that head wall just to keep anyone from falling in, and guardrail along the paved pedestrian way. Currently there's chain link fence there, but guardrail just looks a little, you don't need the fence there for any safety reasons. The chain link allows for better maintenance in the future. And finally, as we restore this slope, that would it's steep, it's pretty steep, and therefore a lot of erosion is occurring. It's a 2-to-1 slope. It would be armored with a riprap and then covered in loam and seeded with a native seed mix. So it's a vegetated stone root vetment along here. When it first goes in, you'll see a lot, it'll be stone with the topsoil and the seed, and there'll be erosion control blanket on it. But over time, it'll grow up and just be tall vegetation that they can mow annually to keep the woodies out. This shows our resource area, riverfront. We have a 25-foot riverfront area that's in orange, and the BVW here is in green. And the light green is our 50-foot buffer, Jackie, I think. 50-foot buffer. So all of this work is within jurisdiction. We did receive a DP number this afternoon. And I can read that into the record. It's 294-0627, and we did receive some comments from the circuit rider that we are looking to address, but we don't have answers for today because we just received them a few hours ago.
Yeah, we
Jack-
received them, so I figured you'd be looking to submit answers to those later.
yes.
Commissioner
Um,
Collins,
Some of them don't seem to apply, but I mean, dewatering and,
Yeah, so our approach to dewatering, so there is this pipe here is actually an unnamed perennial stream, and if I go to the aerial, I can kind of show you. You see it here, it's a open stream channel. There's a culvert under the road. It's open till about here, and then there's a head wall, and then the stream enters a 50 or 42-inch pipe. I think it's the maybe it's the 54. The 54-inch pipe, and daylight's here again. So I don't know, I think it's about 700 feet or so. There's also another pipe that daylight's here. It's a 42-inch pipe, and that's a stormwater pipe from basically this whole area. So there's two pretty big pipes outletting there, and then there's a 12-inch pipe coming from the school or the park, the street here. Our dewatering plan as it stands now is we would put cofferdams inside those pipes. They're large enough, and sandbag it basically inside the pipe, and then have a pipe flowing out. So we're not like pumping and what's the word I want to use? Piping around. Basically, we're not putting in a cofferdam and pumping and piping down to this end. That's 700 feet. That would be pretty wild. But we would be putting sandbags inside the pipe and having a pipe exit it. Water could continue to flow, and then we have to work around that and do our forming and everything and all our site work. But it does seem like we need to communicate that to DEP and respond to their comments there.
and once the head wall is straightened up in that area, you'll have a stone for dissipation of energy force, right?
Yeah, so we would use natural like river cobbles as like a big
Sure.
like a pad underneath it. And we're actually lowering the 12-inch pipe. This pipe currently kind of sits up, it's really small, I gotta zoom in. So I don't have the picture queued up, but the existing 12-inch pipe is like up here, and that water just kind of splashes down and scours, and these two are higher than the stream channel. So we would, bring in stone to dissipate that and lower this pipe by actually putting in a manhole structure and dropping the pipe down so it outlets closer to grade and doesn't just like spill out, causing erosion or scouring.
Commissioner Collins, can I just recognize Commissioner Martinez is now on the call?
Thank you very much.
Anybody have any questions about the project overall, the resource areas, the approach, means and methods?
Not so far from me.
Okay, Commissioner Collins, we do have folks here from the public.
Yeah, I'm going to call on them in just a moment. Just waiting to see whether any commissioners have any questions for the presenter at this point. Okay, hearing none. I see that there are certain members, some members of the public there. Any of you who would like to either ask questions or comment, please just identify yourself and your residence and go ahead. Not being in the room, I'll let you guys try to pick an order and be orderly people yourselves.
Yes, my name is Brian Brace. I live on 170 Senator Street. And as you notice, there's a proposed footpath coming in a right of way off of Senator Street. Right there, yeah. And I was just curious, why is it right on my property border? And not like, it's a 50-foot right of way and not like maybe in the middle of the right of way, but it goes by my back door about 15 feet. Basically, people will be walking by my back door into my backyard to go in, if they put that there.
Thank you.
Oh,
We actually took that out. So it's this limit of work, unfortunately, did not get revised, but there is no connection any longer. It was an initial thought that it would be, to have a pedestrian connection, but not having spoken to you or other people in the neighborhood, it's going to be tabled for now. Maybe if you guys were to say, hey, let's do it, I think the city would be amendable to it, even as a change order, but right now it's off the table. They're not planning on that right now. I think the park works well enough as it is, just kind of an internal circulation. That was the intent. It's always nice to have connections so that if you're living here and you want to use it, but I'm sure there's already informal ways to get into the back of this park. So I apologize that this is still showing up as a limit of work, but as I understand it right now, they're not intending to put a trail in.
okay, but if, say they were, and they put it in the center of the lot, which would be nice, because there's really big pine trees there.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, it's tough. And there's actually an informal trail that's already being used here, but that's also nearly impossible to get anything developing, and it's on someone's land, it seems. So this is city owned, but yeah, there are some nice pine trees there. It would, it would definitely change your privacy, and if no one's saying they want it, I don't think the city really, is looking to make any big changes there for the sake of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my main concern. People walking, they'd be walking right out the side of my driveway, because I keep about 10 feet clear to the city land.
Mm-hmm.
And plus it was all brush and, overgrown and everything. So I just cut it all down and it's just grass there. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I see there are a few other people in the room. Are there more questions or comments?
Another question, Brian Brace again from 170 Center Street. The loop trail coming around is supposed to be gravel and people are gonna have walking trails. Is there, like right behind where that proposed path in, yeah.
This trail, yeah, in the woods, it's proposed as just a crushed stone surface trail and not paved. So there'll be some, and this exact layout is to be, we'll try to avoid trees as much as possible. So it might get a little squiggly, but this is basically the extent of it. We're not trying to get any closer to the backs of these houses, but there may just be some adjustments to avoid significant trees. But it's I think a 5-foot wide crushed stone trail.
Is there gonna be any safety issues? I'm sorry, safety issues or security, like at nighttime, where people can walk through those trails and have access to the back of everybody's, houses and backyards?
Yeah, it's a good point. The parks are closed at night. The people don't, obviously don't abide by those rules. I don't think they're proposing any lighting for sure, because the park is closed. There is lighting in the center access, as you know.
Yeah.
But if that's a concern, I will bring it up with the parks director, Pat Sullivan, and his team, and kind of think that think about safety, but it was intended to just be another type of recreational resource. People like to walk,
Yes,
be in nature, but weren't really thinking about the nighttime element. And I think there are, enough informal trails back there, so it's kind of really no different. And if you do kind of provide recreational resources, hopefully people will use it enough so that it feels more safe. You have
Yeah.
more people using it,
yes.
at least.
Another question. You said it closes at night. Are you gonna put a gate on the parking lot?
On Vincent,
Vincent?
yeah, I don't know how that gets programmed. I say typically all parks are closed at night, and this one is for some reason different. I don't know why Vincent doesn't have a gate. They typically do gate their and lock their parking lots. Probably comes down to just staff to operate it, but that's another good point.
It certainly is a
need to.
point to bring up to Pat about putting a gate there. Because like you said, it's probably the only park I know of that has unfettered access after some.
I think,
it-
you know what, we did, is Will on the call? Will Kelly?
Will was, though.
So we did talk about this at the last meeting. I think the police do use it a lot, to park there and have, to keep an eye out and also just maybe have a break. I feel like that may be a reason why it's not always locked, but they would have, if that's the case, they could have a key or maybe operate it themselves. But yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Well, it's worth exploring. Is that Will? Was that you? Were you just going to speak?
Hi, guys. Sorry. I guess we'd have to check on that gate, and I guess I never really thought about that. So I'm sure we could ask the question and see if it could be secured.
Yeah, and it'd be worth asking I haven't heard that that's an issue, that has become like a gathering point or a drinking spot, but the police would know. I really haven't heard complaints out there.
It is fully lit up, so maybe that's a deterrent. There's lighting on it.
I've had a couple times where I called non-emergency police because there was loud music in that little parking lot and for that straight behind my house. I mean, really loud.
Oh, in here, this.
Even time, yeah, I know the parking lot, yeah. And then that curves around there's actually, in one of the hemlock trees up high, there's a trail camera.
Yeah.
Somebody's monitoring that area where you can't see from Vincent Street when you're driving in, because they go around and you want to go in there and party, I think.
Okay.
But there is a trail camera up there, there are pictures of it the other day.
Well, you
They've
might
been put-
see if that's one of the park department field cameras.
Yeah,
And
they've been
maybe
putting
they're
those up.
specifically, yeah, they did put them up to check on dumping and vandalism and things like that. So,
Yeah, I've been living there for 30 years and on that street. I grew up on Peekskill Avenue and just moved there.
you didn't move very far from home, did you?
No. Nice neighborhood.
Yeah. Are any other members of the public who are there? Do you have questions or we're here to hear the proposals?
Hearing the proposal.
Okay. Okay, any commissioners have any additional questions of the applicant? Obviously, we will be continuing this because they have to answer the questions that DEP sent anyway. And they'll come back with some discussions about both the trails and the gate at the next meeting. So do I have a motion to continue this public hearing until our next scheduled meeting?
I'll make a motion to continue the Greenleaf project until our next public meeting.
Thank you, Peter. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
I wasn't sure who seconded, but it sounded like Clarence. Was that you?
It was me and the other commissioner.
Is that Commissioner Ryan's face I saw there?
Yeah, that's who it was, Ryan. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
can we
so
recognize
did you note that
Commissioner-
Commissioner Ryan is there, Alvin?
Yes, I recognize him. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Then if you'd call the roll on continuing this to the next public meeting?
Okay, Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
on continuance, Commissioner Martinez,
Yes,
Commissioner Alminas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Ryan,
Yes.
and Commissioner Bongiorni.
Yes.
Thank you. So thank you, people, everyone who's there, and we'll have more information at our next meeting. And Juanita, Alvin did say you're under the weather, and judging from that voice, it sounds like you're
better.
feeling on.
yeah, I actually have COVID.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I feel, anyway, but I thought there wasn't gonna be when he said that, I was afraid there was no quorum. But if there is a quorum and I see there is, I'm just gonna bag out.
A question before you go, the collection of the fisheries and wildlife, is this something that you dealt with, Juanita? I know it's something we've done every year.
You mean for which one?
The fisheries and wildlife where they go and collect during the season several
Oh,
times.
right. We just got yeah. I think isn't that an automatic?
It's pretty much, I think we do just do a voice vote to approve it. Because it's been done in conjunction every year, so.
Yeah. That's not the one with there was some
That's
student?
not the water one in the Connecticut River. This is a different one, I believe.
Was this
don't-
that student? There's a student?
This is the student one, you're right, where they are gonna be collecting water samples.
Right, and it's frogs, if I recall, and
Yep.
stages of frogs. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like, that sounds like they're doing a project to benefit the water, so
Okay. So if someone wants to make a motion to approve that project going forward on our lands, that being in order at this time.
I'll
Make a motion to approve scientific collection permit division for the fisheries and wildlife.
Thank you. And a second,
I'll second it.
thank you. Alvin, if you'd call the roll?
Yes, Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Yes,
no, that was Commissioner Collins.
Oh.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Commissioner Martinez,
yes,
Commissioner Alminas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Ryan
Yes.
and Commissioner Bongiorni.
Yes.
Thank you. Juanita, you stay or leave, however you feel. The other two items is, the next one coming up is some additional discussion on the potential acquisition of Liberty Street. And
Yeah.
then these sanitary sewer improvements, which is exempt work. It was sent to all the commissioners. It is work that is being undertaken by DPW, and it's exempt from filing anyway, but they did give us a notice when they showed us the work and how it was going to be done. So feel free, Juanita, you don't sound very good, so if you drop off, we'll understand. So B, Counselor. I think maybe that's why you're here. Counselor Fenton?
Yes. Hi, Mr. Chair, members of the board. There is an application before the Community Preservation Act proposing to fund the acquisition of some parcels off of Liberty Street that I spoke with you all about at your last meeting. If it's all right with you, Mr. Chair, I'll share my
Sure.
screen.
Please.
So the best way to show this is not this map, but this one here. And it reflects in yellow parcels that are under the control of a combination of municipal authorities, including the Conservation Commission, the City of Springfield, and over here towards Cheyenne Circle, the Springfield Housing Authority. And it represents in aggregate north of 75 total acres of conservation area, most of which is occupied by Abbey Brook. The red section here off of Liberty Street is privately owned by the O'Connell Oil and Development Company. We have reached out to them, and at the last meeting, the commission voted to be a co-applicant seeking $700,000 in funding from the Community Preservation Committee for the acquisition of these parcels identified in red here. The applicants for this funding package with the CPC are the CONCOM, the Hungry Hill Neighborhood Council, and the Office of Planning and Economic Development. So those three are the co-applicants. During the meeting, the members of the committee expressed an interest in having us explore additional funding sources because the committee has a rule about not appropriating more than $250,000 towards any one project in any one year. I spoke with some members who indicated that because appropriations from the committee happen in the fall, they may be willing, if they approve the project, to appropriate $250,000 from each of their next two successive budgets at the same time. So effectively giving us $500,000 towards the total project cost of in the range of $700,000 in the fall of this year. And I'm reasonably optimistic that we can gain their support for it. This would be a really important project for the neighborhood, and it would be the first use of CPC funds to acquire property for conservation purposes. So there's a lot of folks who are excited about it for that reason. The reason I'm before you tonight is I spoke with Kathy Bono with the city and Tina Quagliato Sullivan about determining whether or not the Conservation Commission has funds that it controls to consider whether or not you'd be willing to make an appropriation towards this project. And she did confirm some amounts. And I can give you the exact figures and you all can talk about it. Obviously, they're your funds, but there's 3 buckets of funding that Kathy advised me of that the CONCOM controls. There's approximately $45,000 in state funds, $12,000 in local funds, and about $191,000 in trust funds. So in aggregate, it's about $250,000. And my request is that the Conservation Commission consider making a conditional commitment of $150,000 towards this acquisition, conditioned upon a full project funding, including $500,000 from the Community Preservation Committee. This opportunity represents a chance for the CONCOM to help fund acquisition of a property that's commercially zoned, ripe for gas station or strip mall development and to create what would otherwise be, to the best of my knowledge, the largest contiguous conservation parcel that's not parkland in the city. So I'm trying to honor the CPC's request of exploring additional funding sources. And I'm asking that the Conservation Commission consider a conditional commitment of funds towards the project.
Thank you, Counselor. Two of the buckets of money would not be appropriate. The state bucket that she refers to is from filing fees, and the other bucket of city money is also from filing fees. Those are the only funds that we have for maintenance or tree cutting or things that we have. But the larger sum was put in there for the purpose of land acquisition and preservation. But it goes back to the Albano administration when there was something going on and I had significant discussions in order to get those funds. But it shows you how seldom it is considered within the city budget to fund that account for acquisitions, since it has not happened since the Albano administration. So I'll put it on the next agenda to discuss. People may be reticent to taking 3/4 of the money out. I'm not sure, but it's a discussion that we can have as a commission. But that 190 would be the only funds that could be utilized, in my opinion, for those purposes.
Yeah, we would welcome any contribution. To be totally candid, Mr. Chair, the $150,000 figure is my request, because I know that if we got that amount, then we'd be able to complete the project, because that would put us at a potential funding of $650,000. And that should put us right in the ballpark of being able to fund the total acquisition. If it wasn't enough, the gap would be such a small number, less than 100,000, that I'm pretty confident we could get the city support to come up with the rest. So certainly, don't want to ask the commission to exhaust all its funds on one project, but to the extent that you're willing to entertain the discussion at your next meeting and give it some thought, we would appreciate it.
Yeah, I think I'd be willing to entertain the discussion. I think there could be simultaneous discussion going on that you might be able to help facilitate with TJ Plant. There are 3 more years of ESSER funds if we make a commitment at this point of perhaps getting some funds in some of those 3 successive years to help replenish that account, so that when something comes up and there are funds available for purchasing of sensitive or significant properties. And that's the time we've got this unusual time where we've got this influx of state money that is only going to last about another 3 years or so. So it's a discussion worth having. And I'd be glad to join with you on it if you'd like.
Yeah, I would very much welcome that. What was the acronym?
ESSER funds that are they're monies that are coming in through, some directly from the state, some from the federal government's scheduled to the state.
That's
ESSER. Yeah, SESSER. It's all COVID related type money. That's
okay,
supposed
great.
to be to get back to bring society back into full, robust society. So it may be, we should at least explore it with them.
Be happy to do that. And thank you for being open to the conversation. I fully acknowledge that I'm begging for money here to do a project, and appreciate your entertaining it in the future.
Sure. And we can have that discussion with Mr. Plant about whether it be that source or another source of slowly replenishing that account so that it's there when something like this happens again. And I think that would facilitate our discussion. If we can have that discussion with TJ first, would be helpful.
That'd be great. I'll follow up with you on that.
Okay. Other commissioners have comments or questions on that?
I have a question, Michael. I don't have the numbers with me, but what was the amount that, for the piece of property? It was 700 and,
I just stopped sharing my screen. Let me go back to that. So we
Okay.
submitted a pretty comprehensive application to the commission. And the total assessed value of the 9 parcels that make up the 5.3 acres we're targeting for acquisition, the total assessed value is $661,600. We're not saying that that would be the purchase price. Could be higher, could be lower. It'll depend on an appraisal and going through the appropriate taking channels through the city law department. But I'm using that as the target figure because it's my best guesstimate plus a little buffer for the total 700 to get us where we need to be to acquire the parcels.
okay, yeah,
And I had discussions with both the agent for the owner and a representative of the family, the O'Connell family, and they're open to the discussion of having a friendly taking. And their preliminary indication was that we're in the ballpark of what they would accept in a friendly taking situation.
sounds good.
Well, if we're in the ballpark and we get a little low, they can always write off some as a public donation that helps them tax-wise as well. That helps
Really?
everybody get to them. So,
It's
That's right.
such a good deal right now to continue. That's the one little piece, and that would make that whole area that.
it makes a great wildlife corridor,
Oh,
which is
it
what you
does. It's a
try to
good
create.
Right.
And anybody who wants to review the application, I'm happy to provide the materials. I spoke at the last meeting when everybody agreed to support the project about the history of the site and the fact that it was granted to the Conservation Commission and other municipal agents for conservation. One of the things I was able to track down for our application, this is a newspaper clipping from the Union News back in the 80s with then Mayor Neal and Wilbur Hogan outside of the site of the former gas station in Liberty Ice, celebrating the donation of a portion of the parcel. But this site that you see right here in the background, that is the currently vacant site that is owned by O'Connell Oil. And with acquisition, it's our opinion we could complete the original vision of having this as a very large and publicly accessible conservation.
That's Carol Ash with them, former agent for the commission.
That's right. Carol Ash of the Conservation Commission, right there. So,
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions from other committee members? Okay, thank you so much. We will put it on for discussion at our next meeting. And hopefully we can have a discussion with the CAFO in between time.
I'll facilitate that. Thank you.
Item C is, we got notice, and I believe everybody was sent a copy of sanitary sewer improvements that are going to be done it's a combination of DEP and water sewer, I believe, right, Alvin?
Sorry, I'm not, sorry.
I said, is that a combination of work being from water sewer and DPW? Is DPW doing some of this work? Or is it all being contracted out?
I apologize. I do not have the details on this particular matter.
Okay, I for some reason I thought it was a combination, but it is work on the sanitary sewer line where there are improvements that are needed. And this work is actually exempt under the state law. They don't need to get a permit. But they should come to the commission and explain the work they're doing, and they did send us a file on it to show us the work that was being done. I reviewed it. It looks like it's being done in a manner that we would require, even if we were going to give a permit. So, but it is there. They're following what they should do and notifying us about it. Questions from commissioners? Just for the commission, some of the newer commissioners' edification, certain things are exempt from filing with us, even if they go through wetlands or in buffer zones. Anything that's a public safety issue gets exempt from us. Water and sewer, because it's a public utility. Electric is iffy. It can be and can't be. They at least have to file and usually have to file with the state and follow certain requirements. But those things there's exemptions built into the state law, the Wetlands Protection Act, so that public purpose things can go forward when necessary. So just as a matter of education of why it's exempt, those exemptions were built into the state law when it was written.
All right, thank you.
Questions? Anything anybody want to bring up? Then a motion, having gone through, yes, we did go through the agenda. Having gone through the agenda, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Peter. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Clarence. Alvin, if you'd call the roll.
Okay, for a motion to adjourn, Commissioner Collins,
Yes,
Commissioner Martinez.
I think she dropped off.
Okay, she's absent. Commissioner Alminas.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Ryan,
Yes.
and Commissioner Bongiorno.
Yes.
Well, it's a grand evening, and it looks like there's a nice sunny spot right behind you there, Commissioner Ryan, to sit outside to have an evening cup of coffee. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, take care. See you.
See you guys.